This program outlines maintenance procedures for the ARO 3-inch metallic diaphragm pump, model number PD30A-X-C. When repairing an ARO 3-inch metallic diaphragm pump, always use genuine ARO service kits. To repair the air section of the pump, use kit number 637421. To repair the fluid section of the pump, use kit number 637303-X. Tools needed to repair this pump include a 10 mm wrench or socket, a 16 mm wrench or socket, 1 1/8 inch wrench or socket, a torque wrench measuring inch pounds, a torque wrench measuring foot pounds. An impact wrench can ease the teardown process. A 5 mm Allen wrench, an 8 mm Allen wrench, an O-ring pick. Prior to repairing the pump, make sure it has been flushed. Review the material safety data sheet for the fluid in the pump to determine what safety equipment or apparel may be needed when repairing the unit. Using a 16 mm socket, remove the bolts that hold the outlet manifold in place. Lift the manifold, then remove the seats and ball checks. This step can be difficult depending on whether the fluid being pumped has been allowed to dry. Rotate the pump so that the lower manifold can be reached. Use the 16 mm socket to remove the lower inlet manifold. Pull the seat from the lower manifold. Pull the ball check from the fluid cap. Use the 16 mm socket to remove both fluid caps. This will expose the diaphragms. Using the 1 1/8 inch socket, loosen the cap screws and remove a diaphragm assembly. You can now remove the backup washer, the cushion, the diaphragm, and the fluid side washer. Note: models with Teflon diaphragms will also have a backup diaphragm. Pull the remaining diaphragm from the center body. Use the wrench flats on the connecting rod to remove the remaining diaphragm. Use an 8 mm Allen wrench to remove the 4 bolts that hold the right and left air caps to the center body. Lift one of the air caps. Remove the track gasket, O-ring, bushing, and U-cup. Lift the center body to remove the remaining track gasket, O-ring, and U-cup. This completes disassembly of the fluid section. Use a 10 mm socket to remove the major air valve from the center body. Now remove the 2 quick dump checks and both track gaskets. Use the 5 mm Allen wrench to remove the screw from the back of the adapter plate. This allows you to separate the plate from the valve housing. Use the pick to remove the O-rings and track gaskets from between the plate and housing. If the valve plate did not fall free, remove the valve plate from the housing. Now remove the valve insert from the housing. Use the 5 mm Allen wrench to remove the 4 screws from the bottom of the housing plug. Separate the plug from the valve housing. Use the pick to remove the O-rings from the plug. Gently tap the opened end of the housing on a workbench to dislodge the spool. Pull the spool from the housing. Use a pick to remove both U-cups. Pull the actuator pins and sleeves from the pump center body. Remove the actuators and O-rings from the sleeves. Use a pick to remove the large O-rings from the center body. This completes disassembly of the pump. Clean all components prior to reassembly. Use ARO service kits when repairing this pump. Apply Lubriplate FML2 grease to the O-rings and U-cups prior to reassembly. A packet of grease is supplied in both service kits. Install new U-cups on the spool. Make sure the lips of both U-cups face toward the center of the spool. Lubricate the spool assembly and the internal diameter of the valve housing. Slide the large end of the spool into the housing, being careful not to damage the U-cups. Place new O-rings on the plug. Lubricate the plug and insert it into the housing. Secure using the 4 screws. Torque the screws to 40 to 50 inch-pounds or 4.5 to 5.6 Newton meters. Lubricate the ceramic valve insert and install it into the valve block. Make sure the concave of the insert faces out. The radius of the concave should be parallel to the spool. Now lubricate and install the ceramic valve plate over the insert. Make sure the plate lies flat. The polished side should face the insert. The dimpled side should face out. Lubricate the new O-rings and track gaskets that fit between the valve block and the adapter plate. Install these and then assemble the valve block and adapter plate. Secure by tightening the 2 screws with a 5 mm Allen wrench. Torque to 40 to 50 inch-pounds or 4.5 to 5.6 Newton meters. Carefully install new quick dump checks into the center body. Install the 2 track gaskets. Attach the valve block to the center body using the 4 screws and a 10 mm socket. Torque to 40 to 50 inch-pounds or 4.5 to 5.6 Newton meters. Place a new lubricated O-ring into the center body. Install a new O-ring on the outer diameter of the pilot sleeve. Insert the sleeve into the center body. Be careful not to cut one of the O-rings during this step. Lubricate the new pilot piston and insert it into the sleeve. Insert the pilot actuator pin into its sleeve. Install new O-rings on the actuator. Insert O-rings into the center body, followed by the sleeve actuator assemblies. Place both of the air caps face down on the workbench. Install new U-cups into the air caps, making sure the lips of the U-cup face down. Install a new track gasket and O-ring onto one side of the center body. Using lubricant helps keep these parts in place. Set the center body onto the corresponding air cap, making sure the track gasket and O-ring remain in place. Put the next track gasket and O-ring onto the center body. Install the connecting rod bushing and carefully place the second air cap onto the center body. Secure by installing the 4 bolts with an 8 mm Allen wrench. Torque to 35 to 40 foot-pounds or 47.5 to 54.2 Newton meters. Place a washer and a new O-ring on the cap screw. Insert the cap screw through the fluid side washer, the diaphragm, cushion, and backup washer. Make sure the air side of the diaphragm will face inward when installed on the pump. Attach the connecting rod to this assembly. Note that pumps with Teflon diaphragms feature a second, backup diaphragm. Lubricate the connecting rod before inserting it into the center body. Be careful not to damage the U-cup in this process. Attach the second diaphragm assembly. Use the 1 1/8 inch socket to torque the cap screws to 65 to 70 foot-pounds or 88.1 to 94.9 Newton meters. Use the 16 mm socket to attach both fluid caps. Torque each to 60 to 70 foot-pounds or 81.4 to 94.9 Newton meters. Follow the torque sequence in the operator's manual when attaching the caps. Turn the pump upside down. Install new ball checks into the fluid caps. Place the seats in the lower inlet manifold. Then place the manifold on the pump. Use the 16 mm socket to torque each screw to 60 to 70 foot-pounds or 81.4 to 94.9 Newton meters. Stand the pump upright. Install new ball checks into the upper outlet manifold. Place the seats in the upper outlet manifold. Then place the manifold on the pump. Use the 16 mm socket to torque each to 60 to 70 foot-pounds or 81.4 to 94.9 Newton meters. This completes disassembly and reassembly procedures for the Ingersoll Rand ARO 3-inch EXP metallic diaphragm pump.